Australia's favourite satire site, the Betoota Advocate, sparked chaos online after posting a fake $34 million acquisition offer from Sportsbet, a prank that fooled more people than expected and left traditional media red-faced. For more, we're joined by Darren Woolley from Trinity P3. What else could we expect from Betoota?
I know, they've got a track record, haven't they, Aaron? It was only in September that they had another letter saying News Corp were planning to
Yes, I remember that. And even I was like, well, I mean, it could happen, I suppose.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, you know, the timing of this was perfect. You know, this week was the busiest racing week. The biggest or most prominent online betting shop was the target of the Betoota, and I think a lot of people were taken in. I mean, they were doing this to basically encourage subscriptions, but it's amazing how it's become its own story.
Yes. Why do you think they were targeting Sportsbet? Is it because it's a brand alignment?
Well, look, I think, first of all, it is the timing. You know, Melbourne Cup Week is when everyone's focusing on it. I think also because it's very top of mind. You know, you've got to realise that the federal government's really struggling with how to get the balance right. They've made, in many cases, a commitment to crack down on online gambling and the problem because of the problems associated with it. But then it funds so many things. You know, the Australian media is largely funded by it, and I think they're facing the same sort of existential crisis that the tobacco industry had back when they used to sponsor all the sports events.
Yeah, why do you think so many people fell for this prank by the Betoota boys?
Well, I think because it could be true, you know, and they also ran a series of stories that looked like that they're actually supporting Sportsbet. And so, you know, it was like, okay, are they having a go or are they actually gilding the lily to make that, what was it, $34 million offer even more attractive?
So we've got on the screen here our statement regarding Sportsbet's offer to buy the Betoota Advocate and how much they offered us, Sports Betoota, as they say. But then the other one where they're kind of taking the mickey out of Sportsbet, essentially saying that you'll go from that guy on the left to the guy on the right if you decide to get that Sportsbet card details as well. And then this one here, the National Party takes a punt on scrapping net zero, Sportsbet now paying $1.02, and the ABC is only investigating online sports betting because they hate Australia. All of these things could be true.
And look, you know, I mean, in such a divided world and where news information's coming from all sorts of sources, including influencers, it's becoming harder and harder for people to work out what's true and what isn't. You know, the majority of people believe almost everything they see, which is why marketing and advertising works so well.
Yes, and so when eventually Will Hayward and private media actually really do make a bid for the Betoota Advocate, none of us are going to believe it, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the problems, isn't it? If you call wolf too many times, no one's going to come when it does happen.
Yeah, but satire is satire as well. How do you think mainstream outlets responded once they realised that it was fake?
Well, I think most of them are a little bit embarrassed, and that's why we're not seeing it as a bigger story than it is. Because here's the thing for marketers and businesses. What happens and how do you react when someone comes for you like this? I mean, they've actually done quite a bit of damage to Sportsbet as they inflicted a little bit of reputational damage to News Corp. Because they're satirical, you know, they're not really accountable to it.
What role does Sportsbet play in Australia's media ecosystem? Because we all see it when we're watching the television. Talk to us about how reliant they are. And given, as you mentioned, the federal government wanting to curtail a lot of the betting advertisements we see on television, what have the media companies themselves given away about just how reliant they are on them?
Well, there's such a large advertiser, you know, and there's already complaints about how you cannot watch a sporting event televised without having gambling ads at every break. Now, this is one of the issues because financially, most of the media that carries any sort of sport is now become reliant on that income as part of their business model. To take that away, is a big risk, an existential risk for some media because they rely so heavily on it. But then
Yeah.
it was only 30 years ago that we were facing the same thing and hearing the same thing about tobacco advertising.
But I mean, the anti-siphoning list is something that we have in Australia, which is to try and make sure that the largest sports get aired on free-to-air. Free-to-air broadcasters have less and less money. The cost of sports rights is going up and up at the same time. And the obvious thing would be to just have it in a pay TV or streaming for pay situation, but the government doesn't want to do that. That isn't political savvy. Is that what leads to the networks having to take money from where it's coming from, places like Sportsbet?
Well, because it is currently there. I mean, what we do know is that the advertising market will flow and ebb to fill the content and support the content where the audience is. So while sports is still a great way of attracting an audience, you will still get money flowing to that, whether it's largely from online gambling or not.
All right. Now, a Palo Alto startup is turning heads with its $20,000 humanoid home robot, which can tidy your house, unload the dishwasher, but it comes with a big catch. A company employee may have to remotely supervise it inside of your home. That sounds great.
Yes, I think this is the ultimate proof, Ahron, that AI still needs humans in the loop. You know, while they're out there marketing this robot for $20,000 and it'll be available to you next year, it doesn't quite work as well as they say it does at this stage. In fact, they say this is an important part of developing the AI robot further. So anyone that grew up or has ever seen the Jetsons, it's not quite Rosie the housemaid yet.
No, I mean, let's have a look what we're talking about here. Here is this Neo robot that's quite terrifying. Is this in response to the crackdown on illegals in America? Instead of your housekeeper being Mexican, your housekeeper's a robot controlled by a Mexican and you can get away from the wall?
No, look, I actually think this is more problematic in that we've seen...
Hang on, more problematic than what I just said?
Yeah, because we've seen large tech companies pitching things to consumers that are not nearly ready to be bought. You know, if I was a marketer on this, I'd be really worried because, you know, you're making promises and sort of in the small print, or yeah, there's a few issues, but they're aiming this at the early adopters that want to have the first robot. But this is a long way from being finished. I mean, the Jetsons were set in 2062. There's still, you know, almost 30 years before we get there, and maybe it'll take that long before Neo is able to actually do what Rosie did.
Yes, well, I mean, they're talking about general artificial intelligence being just a couple of years away, right? But if I wake up in any decade, at any time, with that thing looking over me, I don't think I would want that. And I think that there's an element here, which is how far is too far with technology in the home? We all jumped on those Amazon Alexa devices when they first came out. Great gift. But in the end, who wants a camera staring at you next to your bed?
Or listening to every conversation, or actually taking in all of the data from the room. It's already happening with social media. And I think here it's just personified in that robot looks fairly humanoid, and except that there's a real human potentially on the other side of it watching everything you do. Now, they say the owner has full control, but still they're collecting a lot of information about how you live your life and what you use and what you do, which has to be incredibly valuable if they start selling that to marketers and advertisers.
Yeah, I sent it to my partner last night and the response was, I'm still not doing the dishes. And that is the... There could be a lot of marriage breakups here if it does work.
Well, I think at the moment, Neo would probably smash the dishes and that way you wouldn't have to wash them.
Yes, in my bachelor days, I used to throw out the plates and go buy a new set because I hated doing the dishes, but don't tell anyone. Good to see you, sir. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks very much.